Navigating life after a late autism diagnosis can be both a relief and a challenge. It can explain so much about your experiences, but also brings a new set of barriers to overcome. So let's break them down with these 20 essential tips for navigating life after a late autism diagnosis. Welcome, my stars of Orion. Thank you so much for watching. I'm orionkelly, that autistic guy. I'm all about providing validation and support for autistic people and their loved ones. Navigating life after a late autism diagnosis can be deeply validating. There are some really great things that come with knowing why you are who you are. But it also presents a whole new set of challenges, and we're going to tackle them with some practical advice and supportive strategies to not only cope, but thrive in your life as a late diagnosed autistic person. And to make it as clear as possible, I'm going to provide the challenge and the solution. Challenge number 1, understanding your diagnosis. Oh my goodness. Why is this a challenge? Okay, so as a late diagnosed autistic person, I think the first word gave it away. You were diagnosed late. So you can only be born autistic. You can't acquire it or pick it up in life. So the diagnosis you were born to receive came very late, which means people didn't say you were that. They said you were other things, like broken, bad, a misfit, just not a very nice person. You make me feel uncomfortable. I don't like you. You're weird. You're different. So then there's no need, or there wasn't even any insight into thinking you could be autistic and therefore you should know about it, let alone your loved ones providing any kind of care factor into even thinking about it or getting to know if this is a possibility. So what is the solution to challenge number 1? Educate yourself, my friend. Educate yourself. And when I say that, I don't mean get a PhD in autism. I mean learn, absorb, read, educate how autism manifests in you, what being autistic means to you and your experience of the world. Autistic brain experiences the world differently to a neurotypical brain. How do you experience the world? Not because you're bad or broken, but because you're autistic. That's educating yourself. Of course, you could forget all about that and just watch my videos. They're really good. In saying that though, personally, when I talk to my community, whether it's on live streams or in the comments, or when this amazing community comment on the videos, quite a lot of them say, this video, or this live stream, or this chat, or this comment has provided me with a real aha moment. In other words, this video or comment or content has really resonated with me. See, educating yourself in all different ways, trying to get information from wherever you can, and how it relates to you, will provide you with these, wow, that's me too. I really resonate with that. And that will deepen your understanding of your new autistic self. New, not because you just got it, but because prior to that, you were thinking, I'm just a broken old person. Now that brings us to challenge number 2, explaining your diagnosis to others. Collective sigh, everyone. Collective sigh. One of the key challenges of being a late diagnosed autistic person is explaining it to others. Why? Well, apparently the world at large are entitled to some sort of reasoning, some sort of explanation, justification that we dare come to them and say, guess what? I've got some news for you. I'm autistic. Oh yeah, you always have been a pretty good drawer. Huh? I didn't say artistic. I said autistic. Like autism, that's the other thing. I find if I say to someone, oh, just so you know, I'm autistic, that means I have autism. I find myself using terms I don't believe in to neurotypical people just so they know what I mean. Does that make sense? Like, I hate the idea of people saying, I live with autism. No. I live with my wife and kids. I am autism. People go, oh, no, don't let it be my child's identity. What are you talking about? The only thing autistic about them is their brain. You take their brain away, they're dead, mate. So yes, it is their goddamn identity. It's simple as that, mate. Let's talk solutions to this challenge before I go too far off track and become positively unhinged. I think When I mentioned what I do when I explain to people, just so you know, if I feel like I want to have a conversation or something that might be a bit weird to them, just so you know, I'm autistic. That means I have autism. I say that not because I like saying that, but because our goal is to convey our diagnosis, our experience to the world at large, to the extent that they will understand it and potentially, it's about the chance, will actually take it into consideration. I've come up with a simple, concise, to the point way of sharing my diagnosis. I don't go into some long-winded story with everyone. Well, it started back in primary school. I was born on a quiet day back in the early 1930s. I was born. That's not true. I wasn't born in the 30s. It was the 40s. Let's just watch the comments come in.
Sorry, hang on. You're a sprightly man. Are you really born in the 40s?
Do I look that bad? That's the thing. How is this joke not a joke to some people?
Wow, you look amazing for being...
In simple terms, the solution is develop a clear and concise way of explaining to others your diagnosis, but more specifically, how you experience the world as an autistic person. Challenge number 3 of navigating life after a late autism diagnosis is, well, frankly, juggling, dealing with, managing sensory overload. Now, sensory sensitivities are core parts of autistic people's lives. Part of the diagnostic criteria, part of the standard experience. That's where it stops though with regards to generalizations. Some autistic people have a hypersensitivity, right? Meaning it's an over-experience. Some have a hypo-sensitivity, an under-experience. Either way, autistic people, and this is one of the reasons what got you to your assessment and diagnosis. So you might have a sensitivity to sound, you might have a sensitivity to light. I talked really fast then. Did you pick that up? The touch, taste, these types of things, environmental factors, all different types of sensory sensitivities, frankly, can become even worse post-diagnosis because you're starting to embrace this is who you are and you're, starting to stop trying to be who you're not and therefore opening the gates to experiencing the world as an authentic autistic person. That's the challenge. Here's the solution. Some people refer to it as like a toolkit. That's a way of basically saying you have this bag of tricks, but let's make it more nuanced. I know I get put off by loud noises. I can be startled. I can be really sensitive to it. I can be dysregulated big time through noises. And also not just loud noises, noises that I might make, no issues, others make dysregulate me. This could be eating, clinking, clunking, all different weird things, right? Slurping. Orion, you're the worst. You're the noisiest eater on the planet. And I know, but when I'm doing it, I don't hear it. Anyway, I also know smell's a big thing for me. It's very much taste, touch, physical touch or touch where I'm not expecting it or needing it, or if I'm dysregulated, bad. It's like, get off me if I'm dysregulated. It's like being bitten by a spider or something. I've taken the time to get to know mine. You can't fall into the trap as a newly diagnosed autistic person of becoming generic. Well, I've got it, I'm here, game over. No, you actually have to work, get to know you. What are my issues and how can I minimize them? A toolkit is basically going, okay, well, we know that if smells are an issue, that I can either minimize my interaction with particular smells by either just keeping them away from me, not getting them, not being around them, or by clearly developing tools of how to separate myself from them. There's tips and tricks. The touch thing is, well, look, if I'm dysregulated, I've told people, when I get dysregulated, I'm really going to react badly to people wanting to hug me or touch me or be close to me. So this is why. It's not about you, it's about me being dysregulated. So we need to avoid that when I'm dysregulated. I let my family know. I come up with the tools and the tricks in my bag of tricks, and I carry them around. Your bag is empty at this stage, potentially. You need to fill that bag. Challenge number 4, navigating social situations. As a late diagnosed autistic person, you may have struggled your entire life with all types of interactions. Why? Well, it's a clear diagnostic criteria: communication and interaction. These are challenges, difficulties at a disproportionate level to what neurotypical people would say they struggle with. And that's why it's a diagnosable and recognized medical condition, disability. The challenges haven't stopped, but now you have a diagnosis, you're still dealing with the same challenges because, well, that's because you're autistic. But of course, you're an adult and you've got a diagnosis, and that can put an additional layer of strain in social interactions because potentially you're isolating yourself further by now not pretending to be neurotypical, as much as you used to at least, and telling people you aren't. You're autistic. That's going to create further barriers, further isolation, further disconnect. What's the solution to this challenge? Well, there's a few. The first thing, autistic people struggle with this. Ironically, autistic people are so brutal and honest and upfront, not in my words, in the way the world views us. We're very much a matter of fact. Yet, we find it very hard, I think personally, to say no. Or maybe this is more specific, to set boundaries and keep them. That's maybe because of this inner pleaser inside us. If we've never been accepted by the herd and we think we can, even if we said we won't do that, if they say you do this, you're accepted, we may well do that. That draw to be accepted. Boundaries are important. Why is that? Okay, well, socializing is also important. Autistic people need connections, absolutely need friendships. This is part of life, part of quality of life. But does it mean you need big group settings or multiple people get-togethers? Your boundaries may be, I prefer meeting one-on-one with friends. I don't want to go out to lunch with 7 friends. Or I prefer to go to this particular cafe or do this particular situation or meet at my house. I don't want to do these social things. I'm providing boundaries and I'm sticking to them. And why? Not to be rude, to maximize our connection and friendship, our interactions, without putting myself in a state where I'm completely dysregulated and really provide nothing to anyone. It affects me, it affects you. Just like sensory sensitivities, you have social needs. You have social challenges, communication, interaction, and everything in between. Making, maintaining, keeping friendships. These are all challenges. You have to work out where I guess you would say that chink in the armor. Where's your core issue here? Where are you falling down? Are you finding it easier to make friends than keep them? Are you finding it harder to make friends? And once you do, you're good. Like, what is it for you? So, why is that? Okay, why am I making friends but not keeping them? Oh, they all get to the point where I'm too autistic for them and they rack off. When you were too autistic, what was happening? Okay, there was 3 or 4 people talking at once in a cafe, in a noisy cafe. No worries. One-on-one, quieter places. This is something you can look at yourself, but again, it comes down to, finding your issues, your challenges, and setting boundaries to minimize them. The next challenge, navigating life as a late diagnosed autistic person, is around employment, or more specifically, finding or keeping the right job. Now, we live in a world where it's hard going, okay? People are struggling to make ends meet. So I'm not suggesting if you have a job, but you know that it's not the right job for you as an autistic person, that you should just quit it. Because people don't have the means to just quit jobs and walk away. You need income and you have bills. I understand that. So let's talk about this on more of a principle-based, generalized discussion, just so we understand the key pillars I'm talking about. So the challenge is finding a job that's right for you as a late diagnosed autistic person and keeping it. That's a clear challenge. And also the challenge in that is if you have a job and then you've been diagnosed, do you go to that job, could have had for years, and then disclose your new diagnosis? And what impact will that have on your continued employment there? Will they be accepting of it? Will they accept your need for accommodations? Rather than saying, well, you didn't need them last week, why do you need them this week? Now, the answer to that question is, I did need them last week. I just couldn't ask for them because I thought I was just a bad person. But now I know I needed them last week because I was an undiagnosed autistic person. Now a medically qualified healthcare practitioner has diagnosed me. I'm not only absolutely sure I do need them, from a legal point of view, I basically am entitled to them as a disabled person, requiring reasonable adjustments. This is a challenge and a conversation no one wants to have. Why would I put my job at risk, even though it's for my benefit? Now, the simple answer is, well, because it's a win-win. You put your job at risk because if they are able to understand that that accepting a diagnosis and providing you with reasonable adjustments actually helps you and empowers you, that therefore makes you a better employee, which therefore makes them a better employer. Now, what's the solution? Because that's a big challenge. And again, just principle-wise here, general, because I know this is not something we can do. You can't just walk away. But let's say you don't have a job and you're looking for one. or you've chosen to leave a job and now you're looking. As an autistic person, it's really important to factor in when you're looking for roles, all contexts. What's the social, communication, interaction component of this job? Not just with workmates, but the outside world. What's the environmental component of this job? What's the actual environment I work in? And how does it change? And me specifically, what would it be where I will be? And does it change? Does it move? What's the long-term view of the environment? Are we in different buildings and different desks every 3 weeks? Is it noisy? Does it have some months that are noisy? What's the management style like? Do they have a history of being accepting and inclusive, or don't they? This might not sound like the solution, but it is when you factor in. If you can go through this checklist, you know the core issues, the challenges in a workplace for autistic people, for neurodivergent people. If you can go through those with the potential employer and you can tick them off or have big red flags, you can make, in my opinion, much better decisions on what to and to not apply for. Now, that might not sound like a solution to you, but it is a solution if you're looking to not only finding a job, but more importantly, keeping a job. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to late diagnosed autistic people who virtually, very recently after they received their late autism diagnosis, left their roles. Some had the same job for years. They walked away because they knew, I can't do this anymore. I've struggled so much suppressing this that now I'm aware this is what it is, and I know how bad it makes me feel. I can't put myself through this anymore and I have to leave. Number 6 is dealing with executive function challenges. As a late diagnosed autistic person, executive functioning is something we've always struggled with and didn't know why. Now you know why. Autism is a neurodevelopmental condition. Executive function is a set of cognitive skills, things you learn. Neurodevelopmental condition, cognitive skills. You see what I'm saying here? So what's the solution? What do you struggle with? Is time an issue? Is staying on task an issue? Do you not understand the idea of prioritizing, or are you just not good at working out what to prioritize? For example, as an autistic person, I may prioritize something that is deeply important to me at the detriment of something that absolutely should have been done first. Okay, so these are all executive functioning skills. And there's so many more skills to executive functioning. As an adult, and you might be a partner or a parent, these are really crucial skills to have. And no, we are not going to have them out of the box. Okay, these are skills, cognitive skills you have developed over time. Yet your brain has a neurodevelopmental condition. We're struggling with the cognitive development of some skills. So this is something you're going to work on. Now, you can't just say, I'm going to work on it. So some people like to use apps. Some people like to use paper calendars, writing, timers, things that say, this is the time to do this now, bing, or stop doing this now, whatever it is. Prioritizing your life in a way where there's these apps that can help you put in the tasks you've got to do, when you should do them, when it might be about when they're due or when this needs to be completed by. So utilizing the technology of the world at large will be your core win here, your core tool, because you can't just say to your brain, okay, we'll be better at it now. It's not going to work. Number 7 is coping with anxiety. A late autism diagnosis brings great stuff. Absolutely. Also brings a whole heap of crap stuff. It's like a honeymoon phase that wears off, and then it's like, oh God. Now you're riddled with anxiety, I feel. As autistic people, this is pretty common, but after a late diagnosis, you can be, because things pop up like, what have I done? What have I done with my life? I'm grieving this part of my life pre-diagnosis that seems wasted, thrown away, gone, can't come back. Mental health struggles can come. Anxiety can be a daily thing because now you're aware as an autistic person of the things that trigger you and dysregulate you, so you become anxious of them. This is a core challenge. The solution, though, may not please you. So if you're anxious, what do you think you need to do? Would it be relax? Okay, so relaxation activities and exercises. I mean, you can say, oh, here we go again with the mindfulness. Yes. Do you ever do deep breathing exercises? How hard is it to deep breathe? How hard is it to do some breathing exercises to help you reset your nervous system? Not hard. Mindfulness. Not taking your phone or device everywhere. That could help. Like seriously, if you're going to sit in the toilet for 5 minutes and have a dump, could you give your brain a break and just like, no, I've got to bombard myself with content the whole time. What are you talking about? You have to give your brain a break. The anxiety comes from external sources, including what you're watching while you're taking a dump. What are you doing? Building a support network is a real challenge for late diagnosed autistic people. And why is that? Well, you're not diagnosed prior, so it's not like you've got lots of autistic friends, yeah? You probably don't know a single autistic person. In fact, pre-diagnosis, you probably thought autistic people were beneath you. You can, oh no, Orion, that's not true. What? Okay, cool, no worries. You may have even patronized or talked down to autistic people in the past. The fact of the matter is, it's a challenge. It's almost impossible. How do you build a support network of supportive, like-minded autistic people when you haven't had a diagnosis and don't really know anyone or want to because of your preconceived ideas? Solution is simple. Find where autistic people are and become part of that community. Now, obviously, a great example is when I do live streams. People come in and I always say, don't worry about me, just chat. Say hi to everyone, introduce yourself, answer their questions, talk to them, form a community, connect. Same in the comments section. So that's one community. Other content creators set up Discord servers. These are the places to go to because then they'll go, oh, you should join us here. Come to this server, come to that chat. A lot of autistic people really thrive on online communities. It builds a sense of connection, but more importantly, you start to resonate with these people. And like I said, you start to answer questions. I have a problem. This is what I've done. Here's my experience. It actually is a living, breathing support network. Trust me, even as a late diagnosed autistic person, you will find your tribe. I know I found mine, and that is other autistic people who can relate to what I'm saying rather than going, what the hell are you on about? Number 9, around communication skills. Autistic people lack communication and interaction skills at a neurotypical level, regardless of diagnosed as a child or diagnosed later in life. This has been a lifelong struggle for you. To different degrees for everyone, but it has. Your communication and interaction challenges have been disproportionately worse over your entire lifetime than neurotypical people. But the solution is, but you didn't know then, like you do know because you've been diagnosed, you are now like diagnosed autistic person and you know you have challenges. How can you navigate those challenges? Again, I find the best way is to work out what your specific communication and interaction challenges are, and from there, work out not only boundaries, but work out adjustments that work for you. Like I said before, sometimes I'll tell people at the start, I'm autistic. That means when we have a conversation, it might come across a bit different to you. That might be like matter of fact, honest, blunt, whatever. I promise you that's not my intention. I just communicate differently. The next challenge, number 10, is about actually embracing your new identity. So as late diagnosed autistic people, this is one of those things where it's kind of, it really is a dilemma. It's a paradox, my friends, dichotomy. Why? Okay, well, you've fought your whole life to work out why you are so different, broken, wrong, bad, whatever you want to say. Now you know why, but there's something inside you that says, don't tell anyone. There's something inside you that says, I'll tell this person, but not that person. Or maybe I'll stay in the closet, right? Maybe I'll be a closet autistic person. I will go about my dating or my relationships or my work life like nothing happened. Now that's a decision for everyone. Disclosure is a personal decision, okay? I can't say either way that it's good or bad because everyone's different. But that's a clear challenge, yeah? Embracing who you really are. You've gone to all this effort and you won't even embrace it. That's a core challenge because what do you have to lose? Is it more than what you'll gain? This is what keeps people up at night. The solution to this is to be honest with yourself. What actually am I fearing I'll lose? Now, it might be my job. It might be the people that I call my friends might lose respect for me or treat me differently. See, that's different to losing a job. That's like, well, then they're not your friends, mate. That's not your tribe. Now, a job is a different thing because you want money. But in saying that though, is that really the kind of employment you want if they're not willing to accept a diagnosis and to help you and empower you? So these are all different. And again, no right or wrong answers. The solution is being honest with yourself and actually, well, frankly, embracing this as who you are. Why go through all the effort of assessment and diagnosis if you're then going to live in the closet? It doesn't make any sense to me. I think a solution is embracing yourself one by one, bit by bit. Okay? I'm not saying, hello world, like start at the start and work your way out. It's a ripple effect. And trust me, the longer you go post-diagnosis and the more you understand yourself, you evolve as a person, you change as a person. And frankly, people just work it out and people find out and people drop away and people get added. But you've got to embrace it. You can't maintain everything that you had prior and thrive post. And you also can't do these hand gestures. Another major challenge for late diagnosed autistic people is adjusting to changes in relationships. And this really flows on from embracing your identity. Because it's like, well, if I do embrace my identity, how will that impact my relationships? And the answer is, well, either way it will. As a late diagnosed autistic person, I know it alters relationships. And this can be peripheral relationships, friends of friends, close friends, family, colleagues, whoever, acquaintances. Post-diagnosis, it will. Trust me, hopefully this will unburden you. Yes, it is going to change relationships. It's going to change the dynamics of relationships. Some will think they can take power off you. Well, you're what do you want to call it? A vulnerable, disabled person. So I take more power now. I'm the boss now. These kind of things, which is strange. And, others may just feel a bit uncomfortable about it. And they become a bit standoffish. Some family may be downright offended that you would dare say that someone related to them has a medically diagnosed disability. I can't tell you how they'll react. What I can tell you is relationships will change. It's a major challenge. Core solution to this is to have open and honest conversations. To be open and honest about your experiences, your diagnosis, your adjustments, your accommodations, how you experience the world with these people. Realign the relationships so you're not this anymore, you're this. Another challenge is not only facing but overcoming stigma and misconceptions from a late autism diagnosis. It's fair to say, I guess, that most conditions, most disabilities come with a stigma. People automatically prejudge you based on a particular diagnosis. Now, as a late diagnosed autistic person, we've talked about it already, you may be scared to tell people because of the stigma attached to it. Now, this might be even worse for late diagnosed autistic women who are meant to be the stable one in the family or the nurturing, caring one, the mother-like. And therefore, the stigma attached to being autistic may be far worse than for me, because the way people judge women versus men in certain situations, whether it's family life, relationships, work, or whatever. Now, the solution to overcoming stigma and misconceptions and myths and these types of things is pretty simple. It's advocating for yourself based on what you've learnt about yourself. We've talked about educating yourself, getting to know your triggers, what dysregulates you, challenges, strengths, and then using your story, your specific individual experience of being autistic to advocate for yourself. So there's a stigma, but you can smash that stigma in 1 second by simply sharing an experience, your own personal experience or story to someone in a way where they go, oh, okay. So I actually don't just have an awareness of this. Now I actually understand where you're coming from. And from that, I can develop more of an appreciation rather than just like a generic awareness. Another major challenge as a late diagnosed autistic person is navigating healthcare, navigating support services. So you go from no diagnosis and therefore no reason to access anything to an assessment leading to a diagnosis, leading to a reason to potentially access or at least look into what support services, what healthcare services are there out there for late diagnosed autistic people. And one of the core issues is most governments, most corporations put all their money into kids. We still think that if we put all our money into young kids, we'll somehow make them not autistic. We'll fix young autistic kids so by the time they're in high school, they're teenagers, we'll wash our hands clean, no more funding, no more effort, because they'll be fixed by then. Now, of course, this isn't the case. You can't fix autism. It's a different brain. It's a different way of experiencing the world. So really, these types of services should be available to all ages, all experiences. They simply are not. So the solution to this clear challenge is to, again, based on getting to know yourself, working out what will work for me. So for me personally, I find regular psychology sessions helpful. I like to do physio sessions for balance issues, muscle tone, these types of things. There's things I want to do and there's things I think are bloody stupid. So it's in fact looking for the things that work for you, but that's impossible without knowing. Identify what you think will help you. And then once you realize what is important to you, then you're looking for specifically that with some sort of autistic connection. The next challenge is around fatigue. So late diagnosed autistic people find it really hard to manage their fatigue, to manage their sense of exhaustion. One of the most exhausting parts of being an autistic person is masking, pretending to be neurotypical via suppressing your true autistic self, to fit in, to be accepted, which never happens, but it's a key thing we do. Now that leads to exhaustion. You can't mask forever. You can't suppress your dysregulation, your triggers. When you do, the longer you do it, the more it leads to meltdowns and shutdowns. The more meltdowns and shutdowns you have, the more likelihood you'll go into autistic burnout, prolonged period of exhaustion, total exhaustion, physical, mental, emotional, whatever you want to call it. This is a major challenge for late diagnosed autistic people who take the diagnosis but potentially consider, maybe I should still continue to mask, or more importantly, don't know how not to. As a late diagnosed autistic person, you can forget. Who am I? How do I be me? I don't even know who I am. Who was I? How do I drop the mask? I don't know. It's really hard. That leads to exhaustion. The solution to this problem is to actually prioritize your well-being. Prioritize rest, alone time, regulation time. That means understanding your limits, understanding your triggers, understanding getting to know when you are masking, when you are becoming dysregulated, when you require alone time, when you are starving yourself of special interest time. Acknowledging those and minimizing those, as in minimizing the starvation of those. So embracing them to hopefully, and this does work over time, to hopefully decrease this constant sense of exhaustion and fatigue. But this challenge, I think, is not talked about as much as it should be. And that is late life social isolation. As autistic people, we are socially isolated. If you were born autistic, chances are you lived most of your life in some sense of social isolation. Sure, you may have a partner or family or some friends, but really, you have a sense of isolation or separation from the world at large. It doesn't get any better in adult life. So you have this core challenge of being undiagnosed, now being diagnosed, but going, oh, hang on, now I'm diagnosed, it'd be really great to have people support me in things, but my whole life has created this complete vacuum, this void. I'm isolated. Where do I go from here? The key solution is to work on, to cultivate connections with a community that you understand. Now, as a rule, that's going to be finding other neurodivergent people, other people who not only understand where you're coming from, they live it. It resonates with them. It's not weird to them. It's like, wow, me too. I feel less alone. These are the people that are going to make this isolation virtually disappear, because you'll get to the point, like I said, where you'll find your tribe. When you find your tribe, the isolation just goes away. Frankly, I think one of the best things that ever came from podcasting and YouTubing for me is actually finding people and connecting with people through my content, to the point now where I'm like, I have a tribe. I have a community. I no longer feel isolated. I feel alive. Challenge number 16 is about establishing routine after diagnosis. Pre-diagnosis, life is a life. And you probably put yourself last. Well, that's okay. But the thing is, post-diagnosis, are you deciding it's business as usual? Or I've decided enough is enough, but there's too much pushback from partners, friends, family for you to actually develop and maintain a strict routine. Because as you know, autistic people rely on routine, on sameness, on structure. Not because we're selfish, but because this creates an environment where we can control the controllables and therefore mitigate triggers, mitigate things that will dysregulate us. The solution to this problem is to create a tailor-made, well-structured daily routine. And then, if need be, to not justify, but explain to your loved ones why it is like this and how this helps rather than impedes your well-being and others around you. For example, if I don't have this, I become dysregulated, I melt down, shut down, burn out, maybe overload, maybe there's rage, and that doesn't actually help anyone. If I maintain this thing, I feel regulated, I feel energetic and happy. I'm a better partner, better father, better friend, better son, whatever. You see what I'm saying? So it is a win-win, but it does come down to actually not going, oh, I'm just going to try and, like everyone just tries to get out of it by just going, oh, kinda. No. Develop a tailored, structured daily routine that helps you maintain the best quality life you can have. But something that's really core for late diagnosed autistic people is their life plan. A core challenge is looking at your life goals, reassessing your life goals. Prior to diagnosis, you were probably on the track of just trying to be a good neurotypical person. I'm going to do this, achieve this, do that, go here, achieve this then and that then. And you have this life plan. And then you think, wow, I don't think this is going to work. And that's a challenge. You're like, well, is it going to work? Isn't it? You're going over it. What am I going to do? Do I have to reassess my whole life? Do I have to change my whole life? Clear solution is number one. Actually write it down or think about it clearly. What has been your life's plan, your life's goals, right? And if writing down helps, write them down. What have you expected of yourself leading up to this? And then it's like, okay, which of these, knowing what I know now, knowing who I am, and how this is going to impact my life and how I'll have to live my life differently to maximize my ability to thrive. What is still important? What is not? What is achievable? What is not? Be honest with yourself. Goals that aren't achievable are dreams, pipe dreams, daydreams, useless. So you need to set realistic and achievable goals. But more importantly, those goals must be in line with your true autistic self. They must be in harmony with maintaining peace, regulation, happiness, whatever the words that work for you are. Number 18 is a challenge and a solution that autistic people grapple with around independence. Now, here's the thing. All autistic people are different. Some autistic people have high support and care needs. It is part of their day-to-day life. They have people that are there to support and care for them. Others have low support and care needs. In general terms, because everyone's different, it's fluid. So my support and care needs may be higher or lower, depending on the day. Not the day of the week, depending on where I'm at. Regulation and all the other issues that come with being an autistic person. Okay, so all these things factor in. Stress, fatigue, capacity, all these kind of things. Demands, whatever. It's okay to admit, even though you think you're a smart, successful, put-together adult who happens to be autistic, it's okay to admit that you struggle to do things independently or that you need help or support to do things. This is part of being autistic. So, but for any level of support and care needs, there is no diagnosis. So you might think yours are lower. It's still there. It's still obvious. But for no diagnosis. The solution is embracing the fact that independence is important to you. That sense of independence is important to you, but it must be balanced with how you can be supported. So it might not be cared for, but how you can be supported, empowered. Building in, whether it's daily activities, whether it's conversations, strategies, support, people, different things, building in how you can strengthen the muscle of independence while still giving yourself enough credit to realize that support is still something that is required. The next challenge is all about physical well-being. Autistic people often have a mishmash of life. There's like special interests, passions, there's this, there's that. We're really focusing in on things that take our fancy. So the idea that we would have some sort of stability in something that isn't a special interest can be unrealistic. Maintaining or even starting on maintaining some sort of physical well-being, some sort of physical fitness, something positive to do with the physical you, if it has no connection to passions and interests, can be really hard. What autistic person wants to get up every day and exercise if that's not something they really want to do and are interested in? So that's a core challenge. Now, post-diagnosis later in life, you already are overwhelmed by the stresses of adult life. And now you're overwhelmed by the stresses of a diagnosis and how we've just talked about, there's 20 of them, how the challenges present from that diagnosis. And the first thing to go in these situations is things like, I just want to go to the gym today because I'm tired, right? I won't exercise, so I'd rather do this or that. It's always the first to go. The solution to this challenge is pretty much like I've said with almost all of them, is tailor it to your needs. Forget about what exercise looks like to others. What does exercise or movement or maintaining some sort of level of fitness look like to you? And how can it be done while potentially doing other special interests? This might sound strange to people, but it's not as strange as you think. Activities that you enjoy, that incorporate your sensory sensitivities and your passions and your interests, that provide you with some sort of positive reinforcement, not only help you physically, but help you mentally. So don't worry about what others say. Go to the gym, do this, do that. Find ways to use your body, to move, to exercise, to do some sort of physical activity that fits into your life and that seems, well, frankly, that seems not only manageable, but actually achievable. Challenge number 20 for those late diagnosed autistic adults is dealing with this massive sense of uncertainty. Change and uncertainty, part of life. For autistic people, change and uncertainty are not good, undiagnosed or diagnosed. Post-diagnosis, you now know why it's not good for you, but still have to deal with it. And there's a whole new level of change and uncertainty, and that is, well, you're autistic. Do I tell people? What's the uncertainty of where my life goes now? What can I achieve? What do I want to achieve? How will others take this? Will it impact my career, my relationships, my life? That's a whole new level of change and uncertainty based on autistic people who can be, well, frankly, derailed by really any change to routine, to structure. The solution is clear. Embrace the idea, acknowledge the idea that change, uncertainty, will always be an issue to you with regards to your routines, your structures, the sameness of your day. People like that as autistic people. Embrace the fact that there will be uncertainty in life. There will be change in life. And to factor in the types of strategies that are going to help you mitigate that. It's the same with kids. You can't just dump stuff on kids, autistic kids. Come on. It's about conversations and working through how we can make this work. What things can be done to address the core issues. Uncertainty is no different to change. Now, yes, you are going to get better at this, but am I saying you should just practice being better at this? Well, no, because you're autistic. So it's not going to be, you can't wipe it clean. It comes down to you'll get better at this by developing strategies to actually meet these issues head on and to mitigate the damage they do when they happen. Whether you've already received your late autism diagnosis as an adult or you're at the pre-assessment phase, to learn even more about late autism diagnosis, check out my playlist, Autism Diagnosis for Adults.